Hi there, John McAdams here with you again. Sometimes you just find a rifle that flat out works. It fits you well, it's not really large or heavy, it has a nice trigger, it's easy to shoot accurately, it's not finicky, you don't need a really extensive break-in process to get the best accuracy out of it, and it seems like it loves all the ammo you feed it. Oh, and by the way, it's not super expensive either. I have encountered a couple of rifles like that over the course of my life. The most recent one that checks all of those boxes is the new Bergara Wilderness Sierra. I have had the opportunity to test out two different versions of that rifle over the past couple of months, both at the range and afield. And I'll just say I am very impressed with the product Bergara has put out there for hunters like me. This isn't a review like you see sometimes where someone is talking about a rifle they just took out to the range a couple of times and they're saying how great it is. No, I have used this rifle extensively. I've shot it out to 1,000 yards. I've shot paper with it. I've shot steel plates with it. I've shot ballistic gel with it. I've shot it off a bench. I've shot it from a variety of field positions like you would hunting. I've shot it with a bunch of different types of ammo, and I have even taken a moose with it. There can't be too many other people out there that have used a Bergara Sierra on a moose. So in this episode, we're going to talk about the new Bergara Sierra in detail. I'm going to tell you all about this rifle so you can make an informed decision on whether or not it fits your needs as a hunter. So let's get started. All right, so first off, this is a solid mid-tier, call it a hybrid rifle. It's not a quote-unquote budget or entry-level rifle by any stretch, but it also has fewer bells and whistles and comes in at a lower price point than some of the other higher-end rifles out there. So if the Sierra were a truck, it would be something like an F-150 Lariat, thereabouts. Not a Platinum or a Raptor or the base model XL. Like I said, really good mid-tier rifle here. So this rifle has a chromoly steel fluted barrel number 5 taper. Now I have mentioned in the past that I've hunted with a Bergara Wilderness terrain rifle in 6.5 Creedmoor. That rifle shot great, but it was heavy with a capital H. It was obscenely heavy for a hunting rifle. Now, the Sierra is part of a trend at Bergara to make lighter rifles that still shoot really well. Well, the Sierra has a thinner contour fluted barrel versus the Wilderness Terrain, which does not have a fluted barrel, and it has a thicker contour barrel overall, and that cuts down on some weight, quite a bit of weight, actually. We'll talk more about the weight side of things here in a minute. The barrel's threaded, comes with an omnidirectional muzzle brake, and it uses a standard 5/8-24 thread pattern, so it's easy to use a suppressor with. Like I said, it comes with an omnidirectional muzzle brake, but it's very easy to unscrew that brake. Also comes with a thread protector if you don't want to use the brake. So you can use it with no muzzle attachment at all, you can use it with the brake, or you can put a suppressor on it depending on your desires. Now, I don't like radial brakes in general. They work fine standing, kneeling, sitting, or shooting at a bench, but they will throw dirt everywhere when you shoot it prone. I made a mess out of a rifle from another company shooting prone on the dirt with a radial brake once, and I'm never going to do it again. Now, on the plus side, though, like I said, that brake is super easy to remove. There's no crush washer or anything like that. Literally just unscrew it and replace it with either the thread protector or a suppressor. Or you could put a different muzzle brake on it if you wanted to as well. So that's really the first thing that I do with any rifle with a radial brake. Now the brake does work reasonably well at reducing recoil though, so that is the plus side of things. And it comes standard, you don't have to pay extra for it. The Bergara Sierra also has a sniper gray Cerakote finish on all metal parts for weather resistance. This rifle also uses standard Remington 700 mounting supplies. This is one of those rifles that is pretty common to use a Picatinny rail on. You could use a regular base on it if you want, but a lot of people put a pick rail on it. It's pretty easy. Now, it does seem like more and more modern scope and scope mounting setups necessitate a higher overall mount. That's especially true if you use a 20 MOA rail. This requires your head to be placed higher to see through the scope when you are aiming. Well, the Bergara Sierra uses a Bergara Sporter stock that has an adjustable comb. You use an Allen wrench to adjust it. Just loosen the screw, raise the comb to whatever your preferred height is, use that Allen wrench to tighten it up, and that's it. It's that easy. This adjustable comb on this rifle makes it easier to get a good cheek weld, in this case, instead of a chin mount on a more traditional stock if you have a higher scope setup. Now, this is also a hand-painted synthetic stock. I think it looks cool, plus it also gives you some additional weather resistance. And it can also help you grip that stock in certain conditions and whatnot. It gives just a little bit of texture to it that, like I said, looks cool and also has a little bit of function to it as well. It is not as pretty as a high-end wood stock, but it also won't warp in wet conditions either. Now, the rifle is set up to use spacers to adjust the length of pull. It comes with 3 spacers, and each one of those spacers changes the length of pull by about 1/3 of an inch each. So the normal length of pull, just with the regular recoil pad on it, is 13.5 inches, and you can increase that to 14.5 inches if you want to. It's a very simple adjustment. Just unscrew the screws holding the recoil pad in place, add the spacers as necessary, put the recoil pad back on, put the screws back in there, and you're good to go. Literally takes 5 minutes to do that work. This rifle uses standard sling swivels, so there's no flush cups on the rifle, but I really like the standard quick detach sling swivels that it has on it. That's what most of my slings are set up for anyway. There are 2 attachment points at the front of the stock, 1 at the rear. I replaced the rear front sling swivel with a Spartan bipod attachment point. So that's where I put my bipod, and then I have my sling actually attached to the front sling swivel, though you could attach it directly to the Spartan bipod adapter if you want to. But you can switch that around a little bit depending on your personal preferences, how you want it to balance, all of that stuff. This rifle uses a hinged floor plate and has an internal magazine. That said, you could buy some aftermarket parts to use AICS style magazines if you desire. Magazine capacity, as it comes from the factory, is 4 rounds for a standard cartridge, like 308, 6.5 Creedmoor, 30-06, or 3 rounds for Magnum cartridges. All the PRC rounds, 300 Win Mag, all of those. You can do a 3+1 or a 4+1 configuration with a full magazine plus 1 in the chamber with this. Now, as I'll discuss here in a second, this is a push-feed action rifle, so you can add that additional round by fully loading the magazine, using one of your hands to push down on the rounds in the magazine, put 1 round directly into the chamber, and then continue to hold down the rounds in the magazine, push the bolt over it, so that'll have a round in the chamber with a full magazine, if you wanted to do that. This rifle does have a fluted bolt, like I just said, typical push-feed action. It's not controlled round feed, but that's fine. I was not planning on hunting Cape Buffalo with the Bergara Sierra anyway. On average, it is a little easier to make lighter and more accurate rifles with a push-feed action because it's just a simpler design. That is what Bergara prioritized here. Plus, the rifle was plenty reliable for me. Like I said, both at the range under various conditions and actually afield hunting. The rifle also has a 2-position safety just behind and to the left of the receiver. So it's easy and fast to see if the safety's on or not, and then to change that position as necessary. Just flip your thumb up there, push it forward to fire. That's a good place for the safety. It worked flawlessly for me. This safety does not lock the bolt when the safety is engaged, though. That can be a good or a bad thing depending on your personal preferences. The Sierra comes from the factory with the Bergara Performance Adjustable Trigger. You adjust it with an Allen screw just in front of the trigger. It adjusts all the way down to about 2.5 pounds. I thought the trigger was great on this rifle. Very good for a standard factory trigger like that that's not a Timney or a Trigger Tech. Very minimal creep or over travel. Like I said, good weight on it, and you can adjust it to your personal preferences. Now, the Sierra is currently available in a wide range of both traditional and newer high-performance chamberings. Right now, it's available in 22-250, 6mm Creedmoor, 6.5 Creedmoor, 6.5 PRC, .270 Winchester, 7mm Remington Magnum, 7mm PRC, 308, 30-06, 300 Win Mag, and 300 PRC. Now, another really awesome thing about this rifle is Bergara makes it in a left-handed configuration. It is exactly the same as the right-handed rifle, but with the bolt on the other side. Cartridge offerings are slightly more limited, but still really good. It's available right now in left-handed configurations in 22-250, 6.5 Creedmoor, 6.5 PRC, 7 PRC, 308, and 300 Win Mag. Barrel lengths are either 20 or 22 inches, depending on the cartridge. Weight varies from 7.4 to 7.7 pounds slick, with no scope, no loaded magazine, any of that stuff. All right, so what's in the box when you get it? First, you get the rifle itself. You get those 3 stock spacers I just mentioned. The rifle comes with a brake already attached on the barrel, already screwed in on the barrel. You have a thread protector in a plastic baggie inside the box. And of course, you get an instruction manual for the rifle. Like I mentioned earlier, I have shot 2 different versions of the Bergara Sierra. Both were left-handed. One in 6.5 Creedmoor, one in 7mm PRC. I shot the Sierra in 6.5 Creedmoor when I was up at the Bergara Academy in Wyoming during late July 2024. I like that rifle so much that I got Bergara to send me one in 7mm PRC to use on my moose hunt in early October 2024. I'll talk a little bit about my experiences with both of those rifles at the range and how the 7 PRC rifle performed afield on the moose hunt next. So both rifles shot Hornady match ammo great. I used the 147 grain ELD match loading for the 6.5 Creedmoor at the Bergara Academy. We shot off a bench from 500 to 1,000 yards, and then we shot in various field shooting positions between something like 250 and just over 900 yards out there as well. Sometimes we shot uphill, sometimes we shot downhill. It was really cool all around. This rifle handled really well, and man, it just shot great. As I got a feel for it, it felt almost like a magic wand. I could point at a target and hit it. I shot it from the prone with a bipod, off my pack, sitting, kneeling, standing off a tripod. So that was with the 6.5 Creedmoor. I also used the 180 grain ELD match ammo in the Hornady match line in the 7 PRC rifle as I was familiarizing myself with it and getting it dialed in after I received it in September in preparation for my moose hunt. I haven't hunted with that specific ammo, but I have shot it into gel. There's a link to that video in the description. Like I mentioned, I had a cow moose hunt coming up, and I was planning on using that rifle on that hunt. I did not have that much time remaining when I received the rifle, so I only tried out a couple of different loads in it. I used the match ammo to get the scope pretty close at 100 yards, and I used it to get a feel for the rifle, get a feel for the trigger, that sort of stuff. And I used the match ammo for that so I could ensure that I wasn't wasting any of my premium hunting ammo doing that. I was looking real hard at using one of 2 different loads on this moose hunt. One was the new Barnes loading with a 160 grain LRX. The other was the Federal Terminal Ascent loading with a 170 grain Terminal Ascent. I shot both loads in the rifle, and they both did well, but the Terminal Ascent shot a little better, and that is what I opted for. I actually shot a sub-MOA 10-shot group with this ammo as part of my evaluation. Muzzle velocity on average of that Terminal Ascent ammo was less than Federal's 2950 feet per second advertised, even out of a 22-inch barrel, which is what I had, instead of the 24-inch barrel like most companies advertise their velocities with. That rifle shot great almost right out of the box, and it did not require an extensive and complicated break-in process. I did give it an initial cleaning, and since I was going back and forth between copper and lead core ammo, I did thoroughly clean the bore when I switched between the Barnes and the Terminal Ascent ammo, just so I was starting off with the same baseline for each one. Like I've mentioned in the past, sometimes you can have erratic accuracy when you're switching from a lead core bullet to a copper bullet and vice versa. So I did those cleanings, but that was it. I didn't have to do the whole shoot 3 shots, then completely clean the bore, then shoot 3 more shots, then clean the bore again, like some people do when they break in a barrel. Nope, this rifle shot really well from the beginning, and while it was certainly dirty when I cleaned it going between ammo types, it was not excessively dirty either to make me believe it had a quote-unquote rough bore or anything like that. So I did all of that stuff. I decided I was going to use the Federal Terminal Ascent ammo on my hunt, and then I spent the next 2 weeks preparing and continuing to ring that rifle out at the range. We'll talk a little bit more about accuracy in a minute when I talk about some of the other ammo types I shot in this rifle. I ended up taking it to Colorado for my moose hunt. I carried it for many miles of walking. It weighed 11.8 pounds with a full setup. VX6 HD 3-18 by 44 millimeter scope, banished backcountry suppressor, full magazine with 4 rounds, ultimate firearm sling, Spartan adapter, and a trigger cam mounted on the scope. It drops down to 11.2 pounds without the suppressor. Now, the trigger cam itself weighs a full pound, so that weight drops down to 10.8 pounds if you use it with the suppressor, or down to 10.2 pounds without the suppressor. The trigger cam is really cool for filming your shots. It gives you a video of the view you have through your scope. And I did film my shots for this hunt, but it also adds weight and it changes the balance characteristics of the rifle. This is more of a commentary on the trigger cam than the Sierra itself. I like to use it to film my shots on my hunts to share the content with my audience, but this is something most people don't do. So realize that's adding, like I said, a full pound to the weight of the rifle. Now, besides taking off the suppressor and or the trigger cam, you can easily trim down some additional weight off of that by going with a lighter scope, right? The VX6 HD is one of the bigger hunting scopes out there. A VX3, for instance, from Leupold, or offerings from other companies will be lighter to 1 degree or another. You can get some lighter scope rings. You can get rid of the Spartan adapter. You can use a lighter cartridge like the 6.5 Creedmoor, things like that. All of those things trim the weight of the rifle down by another pound or so you can get it to around 9 pounds if you were so inclined. But remember, those weights are like how I actually carry this rifle afield on a hunt. I'm not giving you a stripped down weight in a configuration no one will ever use. So anyway, I took this rifle on that moose hunt and I ended up killing my moose with my Sierra. Long story short, the Sierra worked great on that hunt, and it worked great at the moment of truth also. I had a cow-moose tag, so I shot a cow on this hunt, but I ended up shooting that cow twice. Both shots hit within about 2 inches of each other. I shot from a Spartan Ascent tripod while sitting and while overlooking a willow bottom. Like I mentioned, I was using a banished backcountry suppressor. I could hear each shot hit that moose with a distinctive slap. I fired, I hit her with the first shot, cycled the bolt, and I tracked her through my scope as she ran. And she didn't go far, maybe 10 yards, almost directly away from us, stopped, turned, same shoulder, right shoulder facing me as when I shot the first time. I got back on target, fired again about 5 seconds after my first shot. And like I said, I hit within about 2 inches of where I hit the first time on that same shoulder. I did not have a clear opportunity for a third shot, but she was down for good just over 20 seconds after the first shot. And I was able to get back on target quickly again for a third shot if I needed to, and I was able to watch all of that go down. So very happy with the performance of this rifle on that hunt. Since I was short on time, I did not shoot a large variety of ammo prior to that trip through this rifle, especially since I found that terminal ascent ammo that my rifle liked pretty soon. I found that out the first time I took it to the range. Now that I'm back from that hunt, I have had the opportunity to shoot some other ammo through that rifle. Now, I have since shot the Hornady Precision Hunter ammo with 175 grain ELDX in this rifle. Same thing with the Weatherby load with the 177 grain Hammer Custom and the brand new Federal tipped Fusion ammo. All that stuff shot well in the rifle. Now remember, this is a hunting rifle, not a competition rifle, and there is more to building a good hunting rifle than just shooting a really small group at the range. Accuracy is good, even great with all of those things in mind, but I won't be setting any bench rest records with it. I was very pleased with the handling characteristics of this rifle too, even with a suppressor on my hunt. carrying the Sierra was not like dragging around a boat anchor or an obscenely long rifle that kept getting hung up on things in Colorado, like I dealt with on an elk hunt in Arizona years ago with a different rifle with a longer barrel. Fortunately, a 22-inch long barrel, like with this rifle, seems to be a nice balance with the 7mm PRC. I'm still getting good velocity out of it, but it's not excessively long. Now, both Bergara Sierra rifles I have shot also proved very reliable at the range and afield. I have experienced no feeding, extraction, or ejection issues over the course of putting several hundred rounds through both rifles. Now, the bolt on the Sierra operated as smooth as silk right from the first time I received it as well. It was not sticky to open or close on either rifle with any ammo I've shot in it. I've shot the 6.5 Creedmoor version of the Sierra out to about 1,000 yards. Phenomenal accuracy with that rifle. I have shot the 7 PRC version of the Sierra out to about 500 yards due to range size restrictions. Now, I figured I likely would not shoot a moose farther than 500 yards anyway, so I wasn't too concerned about it. I obtained dope on the 7 PRC out of this rifle with the actual ballistics. I was measuring with my Garmin chronograph and whatnot out to 500 yards. Now, one of my local shooting ranges has steel plates at 200, 300, 400, and 500 yards. As I wrapped up my final shooting session before my hunt at that range, I was just hammering a feral hog-shaped steel plate at 500 yards. Bergara does offer a 1 MOA guarantee with this rifle. Like I mentioned earlier, I shot a sub-MOA 0.95-inch 10-shot group with the Federal Terminal Ascent ammo. And of course, 3-shot groups can be even smaller with it, but I think that larger 10-shot sample size is a better indication of what you can expect with this rifle, which is still really good and candidly isn't something most rifles or shooters are capable of. Now note that this is not an ultralight rifle, and to be fair, Bergara does not market it as such. Their Crest Carbon, MG Light, and MG Microlight rifles are all lighter than the Sierra to one degree or another, and are all better choices for someone who wants a super lightweight rifle. But those 3 models are also more expensive too. So like I said, the Sierra is more along the lines of a typical hunting rifle that is not excessively heavy or light. And if we are being honest with ourselves here, this rifle fits right in the ideal niche for what most hunters need anyway. So keep that in mind. All things considered, I think the Bergara Sierra is an excellent hunting rifle. It's not a PRS or a competition rifle. It's not an ultra lightweight hunting rifle, but it is a very solid rifle that does all of the most important things most hunters need very well. And it comes in at a reasonable price point too, with an MSRP of $1,099. Left-handed models are slightly more expensive, MSRP of $1,129, so just $30 more. So that's MSRP. You usually can get it for less, especially during a Black Friday sale or whatever. Usually comes in for less than $1,000 and sometimes quite a bit less. So this is not a budget or an entry-level rifle, but it's also not a higher-end semi-custom or custom rifle either. I think it compares favorably to other rifles at a similar price point, and it just blows away a lot of the less expensive rifles out there. Now, I am very pleased with the 2 Sierra rifles I have shot so far. Now, like I mentioned earlier, just to recap, Bergara markets the Wilderness Sierra as a mid-tier, all-purpose hunting rifle, and I think it excels in that role. It will work great hunting deer from a deer stand. It will be great for hunting elk or mule deer. That Cerakote finish and synthetic stock also means you could even take it out to a pretty wet and nasty place like Alaska for animal like deer, moose, bear, whatever, and you won't have to worry about the stock warping from the moisture or having the barrel or action start to rust on you. Plus, it's an additional really solid rifle offering for all of you southpaws like me. Right? Left-handers like us are less than 10% of the population, but it's a very vocal segment of the population. This is what I always ask manufacturers when I talk to them about rifles. Hey, do you make a left-handed version? Well, Bergara checked that box here too. So there you go. I think this is an excellent rifle, and it should serve a giant chunk of the hunting community really well. Now, if you want to get a Bergara Sierra for yourself, I have arranged with Bergara for an exclusive promo code you can use when shopping on their website. And yes, you can buy a rifle directly from them and they'll ship it to your local FFL in accordance with local laws and regulations. Using this code will get you 10% off any purchase directly from Bergara on any of their rifles and accessories, to include the Sierra. Click on the link below the video, enter your contact information there so I can send the promo code to you and so you can get one of these awesome rifles at a discount. Now I'm going to turn it over to you. Have you shot or hunted with the Bergara Sierra so far? If so, what cartridge? What all have you hunted with it? Leave a comment on this video. Let me know right now. As always, please subscribe to this channel. Click that red subscribe button below the video and hit that thumbs up button if you liked it. That will do it for this video. Thanks a lot for your support. Have a great day and good hunting.